The Supreme Soviet of the Soviet Union was the highest legislative body in the Soviet Union and the only one with the power to pass constitutional amendments. It elected the Presidium, formed the Council of Ministers and the Supreme Court, and appointed the Procurator General of the Soviet Union. Structure: the Supreme Soviet was made up of two chambers, each with equal legislative powers, with members elected for 4-year terms. The Soviet of the Union elected on the basis of population, with one deputy for every 300,000 people in the Soviet Federation. The Soviet of Nationalities, supposed to represent the ethnic populations, with members elected on the basis of 32 deputies from each Union Republic, 11 from each autonomous republic, 5 from each autonomous oblast, and 1 from each autonomous okrug. The administrative units of the same type would send in the same number of members regardless of the size of population. Under the Soviet constitutions of 1936 and 1977, the Supreme Soviet was imbued with great lawmaking powers. In practice, however, it functioned as a rubber stamp for decisions already made by the CPSU. This later became common practice in all communist countries. However, with the advent of perestroika and the partially free elections in 1989, the Supreme Soviet acquired a greater role in the government. After 1989, it consisted of 542 deputies. The meetings of the body were also more frequent, from 6 to 8 months a year. The Presidium carried out the day-to-day operations of the Supreme Soviet when it was not in session. Chairman of the Presidium of the Supreme Soviet of the USSR. Mikhail Kalinin, 1938–1946. Nikolai Shvenik, 1946–1953. Clement Voroshilov, 1953–1960. Leonid Brezhnev, 1960–1964. Anastas Mikoyan, 1964–1965. Nikolai Pogolny, 1965–1977. Leonid Brezhnev, 1977–1982. Yuri Andropov, 1982–1984. Konstantin Chernenko, 1984–1985. Andrei Gromyko, 1985–1988. Mikhail Gorbachev, the 1st of October 1988 to 25 May 1989. Chairman of the Supreme Soviet of the USSR. Mikhail Gorbachev, the 25th of May 1989 to 15 March 1990. Anatoly Lukyanov, the 15th of March 1990 to 22 August 1991. Convocations. First Convocation Session 1938 to 1946, World War II. Second Convocation Session 1946 to 1950. Third Convocation Session 1950 to 1954. Fourth Convocation Session 1954 to 1958. Fifth Convocation Session 1958 to 1962. Sixth Convocation Session 1962 to 1966. Seventh Convocation Session 1966 to 1970. 8th Convocation Session 1970 to 1974. 9th Convocation Session 1974 to 1979. 10th Convocation Session 1979 to 1984. 11th Convocation Session 1984 to 1989. First Convocation 1989 to 1991. Sessions were conducted in the form of Congress of People's Deputies of the Soviet Union. New composition 1991. Unlike previous convocations, there were no elections for the new composition of the Supreme Council. Instead, members of the Council were delegated from the Council of Union republics that continued to be members of the Soviet Union. Supreme Councils of Union and Autonomous Republics. Beside the Supreme Council, in the Soviet Union also existed Supreme Councils in each of Union and Autonomous Republics. The Supreme Councils of Republican level also were headed by the Presidiums, but all those councils consisted of one chamber. After the dissolution of the Soviet Union, some councils of the succeeded independent republics simply changed the name to the historic to emphasize the importance of the council as a national parliament, while others went through some major restructuring by changing to double-chamber assemblies. Please note that all republics in the Soviet Union were Soviet, yet 15 were of Union level, while the other autonomous republics were subordinated to the Union republics. Supreme Councils of Union Republics. Supreme Council of Georgia in 1992 changed its name to State Council of Georgia. Supreme Council of Russia until the 4th of October 1993, when it was dissolved as part of the 1993 Russian constitutional crisis. Supreme Council of Kazakhstan until 1995. Supreme Council of the Karelo-Finnish Soviet Socialist Republic in 1940 to 1956. Supreme Council of Belarus until 1996. Supreme Council of Lithuania in 1991 changed its name to the Seimas. Supreme Council of Moldavia in 1991 changed its name to the Parliament of the Republic of Moldova. Supreme Council of Azerbaijan in 1991 changed its name to National Assembly of Azerbaijan. Supreme Council of Ukraine in 1991 adopted Ukrainian transliterated name Verkhovna Rada. Supreme Councils of Autonomous Republic. List of known autonomous republics. Councils. Supreme Council of the Karelian Autonomous Soviet Socialist Republic existed in 1938 to 1994, except for 1940 to 1956 when Karelian ASSR was a union republic. The Karelo-Finnish SSR. Supreme Council of Crimean Autonomous Soviet Socialist Republic in 1938 to 1946 and 1991. Transition to Verkhovna Rada of Autonomous Republic of Crimea.